Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. Whether it's happening on the track, in the paddock, or beyond the grid, we'll talk about it all.
Viva!
Yeah, there we go. There's a little Viva Las Vegas for it. Riding high and a little giddy too after like weird sleep for the Vegas race. So welcome back to She Loves the Grid. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Claire. Oh my gosh. I am delirious because I maybe got 5 hours of sleep. So I apologize up front if I don't make sense.
And then I was telling you right before we started recording, kind of nodded off on the face and then had to rewatch it because I don't know who I think the hours were good for, but they were not good for anybody.
No, I really don't think they were good for anybody at all, except maybe the people in Australia, actually. And I know we have quite a few listeners in Australia because we get a lot of downloads from Australia. So hooray for you guys for having a race at a normal time of the day.
Absolutely. Well, let's get going. This is going to be a long one, folks. Just get ready because so much. We've said that about a couple of races, but holy cannoli.
I know. After this week, I'm exhausted. I can't even imagine what the drivers are feeling.
Days, it's just exhausting with the whole week. Yes, it's been what a way to end the season, and we're just one race away. I mean, just oh my gosh, one more race. It's almost like one more race. Okay, how was your week? You had a busy week.
I mean, it was I mean, even outside of F1, it was so busy work-wise. And then yesterday was a very long day, but fun day. Went to a football game and then came back just in time to catch Miss Universe and then had an hour to kill before the pre-race started. So, I mean, my day started probably like 5:30 a.m. and didn't end until about 2 a.m. So it was a long, long day and a busy week, but I mean, this week I can rest. How was your week?
It was good. A little chilly. We discovered a better way to get the heat adjustment in the new apartment. So the last couple of days has been comfortable, which has been nice as we're getting used to the cold. But today we discovered a new dog park for us. You saw because you follow my puppy on Instagram. And if this fenced doggy area that her new doggy pal, who was a Rottweiler, with my little mini husky, this big Rottweiler, just having a blast. So that was so much fun today to go and, get out of the apartment, which I don't do much. And that was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was a cute video. At first, from far away, I was thinking like, oh, is her dog going to be okay with that puppy? And then I realized like the little dog was Wuda. The other dog's so big. I'm like, holy cow.
It's so much fun. Wuda had so much fun. She had so much fun. I've got another video I'm going to post later, but they had a blast. But it was because we discovered a second part too on the way back. So that one was like 28-minute walk. Not bad at all. So
that's not bad.
It's all fenced in just for dogs. It's perfect. It's great. Berlin is so friendly. It's just so amazing.
That's awesome.
And then, just getting excited. We are T-minus 13 days till we land in Roma together. This is the time of the recording, not the time of the publishing of the podcast. So
yes, yeah.
Anyway, all right, here we go. It's going to be a long one. We're probably going to be the longest episode yet at this point.
It really could be because there's
people who watch us on YouTube. There's 18 of them. There's so many. So anyway,
it's nuts. Okay. Let's start with the opening ceremonies. Didn't watch it.
Me neither. I didn't watch the recording yet. There was enough of the afterwards and the Hunger Games. We do my Hunger themes. Wait, that's
Hunger Games.
Yeah, the Hunger Games.
And that was the funniest part. Is okay. So I saw Hunger Games. I don't know, way back, whatever. And I've only watched it once, but all of the memes and the comparisons coming out about it look like what do they call it? The tributes? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Did you guys see that hummingbird?
Yeah.
Did you see the hummingbird just come to my window?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it when he does it. He does it almost every day. Okay, anyway, sorry. Anyways, the Hunger Game tribute comparisons hysterical because that's exactly what it looked like with them coming up out of the, I don't know, they're shipping containers, I think is what they are, trucks, and they come up and they just stand there and they're like,
It was the weirdest thing. It was just like, now, fun fact.
Yeah.
You know, my son's been a dancer for the longest time. He's about to, retire from that and become a programmer. But a couple of the choreographers that he worked with a long time ago were Napoleon Dumo and Tabitha, and love them. Shout out to them. They're amazing. They've done lots of choreography for the Super Bowl and worked with big names like Beyonce and such. They were choreographers for the F1 opening show.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did. I saw them posting some stuff about it. They were showing some behind the scenes stuff of them running around on scooters, motorized scooters and stuff, running up and down the pit and everything. And I was like, my two worlds just collided. I was like, oh my gosh, Napoleon. In fact, remember when I did Zach's 25th birthday celebration video? Yeah. They recorded something for him.
Oh, how nice.
Yes,
that's
shout out
cool.
to Nabby Tabs. That they go by Nabby Tabs. Shout out to them. They did a phenomenal job on their choreography and everything for the shows and whatnot. But yeah, it was just so cool to have my two worlds collide. It was like,
no doubt.
How are you guys involved in something that's not? Whoa, it's so cool.
That's really cool. That's amazing. Well, now I'll have to go back and watch the choreography because, again, I only saw the little things that were showing up online. So
yeah, that's all I've seen. Now, me too. Now I'm inspired to go back and watch because they were involved. So that'll be phenomenal because they are phenomenal.
That's awesome. No, totally. I need to go watch it. But maybe next year they do something a smidge different, like not the
the elevators.
Yeah, the tributes. Yeah. But
exactly pick his thoughts on that because in the and some of the floats at Disney, that's how they rise the characters up to the top like little elevators inside the floats.
I mean, I love that for a concert or something. I think it was just the way it was done. Like they were so high up, and I don't know. I need to go watch it so I can have a better idea than just what I was seeing online. But
because we're seeing people's perspective in clips, right. So yeah, exactly. There's that.
Yeah,
but it was interesting too. I think part of it is just we're not used to an opening ceremony.
Yeah,
and it's a bit ostentatious. It's very American. It's very bold and out there, and I kind of agree with some of the stuff like that Max and others said. And you know me, I don't agree with Max on a lot of stuff, but I really like this perspective on the sport versus all the spectacle. And F1's not a lot about the spectacle.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. Why it was just a little odd.
Yeah.
Hard to consume, hard to accept because it's just so much spectacle, and that's just not even in my short year now in F1. It's just not something.
Yeah, you just don't do it, and we can talk about that. Like Max was saying, it's 99% show and 1% the race, and you just stand up there feeling like a clown or looking like a clown. And I mean, yeah, what I think they're just waving like, okay. And, he said, I do it because I want to race and this is a business and that's part of it. And so, I have to do that side. And Lando said almost the exact same thing. Like, I don't want to do that kind of stuff. And I only do it because I want to get to the racing part of it. So I think that in some of those, I agree with you. I agreed with Max. I really liked a lot of the stuff Max said this week, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I really agree with all of it. Like, I hope that they next year take the drivers into consideration because I feel like, yes, it's Vegas. It's over the top. Like, that's what Vegas is. And it's kind of what's interesting to me to hear perspectives from people who haven't been to Vegas. Because I mean, when I lived in California, when I live here, I'm so close to Vegas. I've been there so many times, and really, you don't want to spend more than a couple days in Vegas. After that, it's just like overkill. It's just too much. So to hear like from a perspective of somebody who's never been, I can see it being like, oh, this is great. But we want it to be over the top because it's Vegas, but at the same time, like, we've got to take the drivers into account. And I don't know. I'm kind of with Matt on that. I don't know if they did.
And you bring up a good point because I think back to some of their feedback after Miami and coming up with the intros and like the parade, kind of pre-parade and whatnot. And they kind of had some ick off of that. It's like the F1 not listen? Were they too far into the planning of Vegas to make any, marketable changes or what? But hopefully it all kind of goes into next year, both for because I don't think Austin's not like this, right? It's not so ostentatious. Ostentatious.
Well, I mean, every race has the driver's parade, but they don't do. I mean, when they
not like the intro kind of stuff that you had
Miami and all that stuff. No, they don't do intros like that. They have usually the cowboy cheerleaders are on the track, doing a dance here or there, and there's usually the band from the local college, the Longhorns, I think, are there. But that's, I'm sure, happening, everywhere. It's not these grandiose, opening ceremonies or, driver's entrances. No, Austin is more chill, which is, and it's a great race. Yeah, it's a really great race. So let's jump into the special liveries and the lids, because just as I said last week, I was hoping we would see a lot more than just Ferrari. And this is the Alpine. So loved the curbs. We talked about that last week, but the curbs with the different suits on them, that did look sharp on camera. And I kind of think maybe some of the other countries could add some of their local flair onto, things. I think that's kind of fun. I think it differentiates it. This was the Alpine's special livery. I actually, I didn't even mean to do this, but so my sweatshirt has kind of that little, just very faded, almost like camo pattern or something underneath. Yeah. So yeah, but nice job. They had special, outfits and jackets and the whole 9 yards. The Williams, oh my God, Williams killing the livery game this year. Love this.
I love that. I love the hint to Vegas in the back. I love how they put Williams in the lights. Looks like the lights and everything. I really like that.
I love it. It's just colorful, and it's not like typical Vegas. You know what I mean? It's not like the Red Bull car, which we'll see in a second, but where it's the playing cards and the chips. It's Las Vegas, like a sign. I love it. Awesome job, Williams. You guys rock. And then here's the Red Bull. So fan designed livery. I do like it compared to some of the other options that they had. What do you think?
I'm a sucker for purple, so I love the purple on it. And
yeah, I liked that this time they took it a step further, and the tire wheels or the rims or whatever looked like poker chips.
Yeah, that was cool. I noticed that when Max was in the pit, serving his penalty. Yeah, but that's what I noticed. That was so cool.
I think that's amazing, and I think that elevated it a little bit for me. And I'm kind of hoping that was the fan person, the fan who designed it was like, now we add poker chip wheel rims.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about McLaren having the Google Chrome logo on their wheel, right?
Yeah,
it just spices it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
all the way through. I know. So, I mean, they called it a special livery.
That's what I was trying to figure out, where is the special livery? Is it the Jack Daniels?
Well, they added the Jack Daniels. Okay, and I can't tell if to the left of Chrome if that's actually part of the livery or if that's just lighting, but that's new too if that's there. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Alpine, okay.
This one is so cool.
The AlphaTauri. Oh, please go to our YouTube and watch this. We totally forgot to mention, but we have a lot of slides. The AlphaTauri.
The AlphaTauri, that one caught my eye on the track. I was like, who is that? That one is gorgeous.
How could it not? I think it's so cool. It's very different. And it's inspired by their clothing line, which Yuki there's photos of him wearing a puffer vest that has this same black with white striped pattern on it. And I just think that's amazing. I love it.
The nerd in me makes me think it looks like the Doppler effect.
Yeah. I love it.
I just think it's cool.
Yeah. I think it's
so cool.
Nice job, AlphaTauri.
Yeah. And then next we go into lids.
Lids? Oh, and I don't think we have Carlos and Charles. I just thought about that. So Alpine, this one I had to send you right away. Esteban Ocon. A Deadpool. You love Deadpool. And the helmet is like spot
Just,
on.
and I loved how excited Ryan Reynolds was about it too. It was
Yes.
just so amazing.
And he's,
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that Esteban really does give that to him after the race because Ryan's a new investor earlier this year for Alpine. And so I think it's pretty damn cool that this ran in the Vegas GP and Ryan was there. So yeah, that's nice work, Esteban. This was kind of crazy. Lando Norris's snake helmet.
Ooh. So cool. The colors on it, the detail, it was just amazing.
The detail is incredible. And I loved how they did a little photo shoot out in the desert, putting it on. It looked like a yucca or something. Yeah, it just really, really cool. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him this weekend, but I like it.
I love this chrome one. I love the colors. They're going fast by and whatnot. I just love this chrome one.
Yeah, this was one. Oscar Piastri's chrome helmet is all dark mode. And at first I was kind of like, yeah. But then, like you said, the closer I looked at it and you see like, the flag, the Australian flag, and then the lines and the colors where it does look like it's going fast. Like the wind is coming at your face and going past you. And yeah, this one grew on me. A really nice job. Like that a lot.
I like that it's kind of matte too. It's not like all this all over shiny. I like that there was like just a mix, and this one was nice and dark.
True. And
Carlos.
Fernando. Okay, so we were talking about this before we started recording, but one thing I do appreciate about Fernando is you can tell at a glance that this is Fernando's helmet. And then he's added like some Vegas things to it. So whose helmet this is, and then it's like just a little zhuzhed up for Vegas.
Yeah, it's like he leaves an area for the iconography for the area, like the cards, and the sign, and then notice there's like a little top hat over his number. He actually changed his number up a little bit, but yeah, he just kind of themes his helmet a little bit, but keeps the structure the same, helmet after helmet.
Yeah, love that. Amazing.
So many more.
Oh my gosh. Was this Nico's?
Yeah, I think this is number 20. See 20? See number 20?
I don't know what Nico's number is. Is that terrible?
Let me double check. But yeah, this one is cool. I love how they took the pictures. And no, this isn't Nico's. This is
Kevin's.
That's Kevin's, rather.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, 20. That makes sense. I don't know. What Kevin's
number is 27, and Kevin is 20.
Okay. I was like, I don't know his number. I love the fabulous Las Vegas sign on the top. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I love how they did the photo shoot, here, and then the next one they changed it up.
Yeah. I think that looks cool.
This bottom picture is actually a huge row of lights, and I had to crop it out to get more, so you could see more of the helmets. And
it looks good. It looks really good. And then Yuki's like Fernando, where it's like, this is his helmet. And then he just changes it up for the area. Like the leaves.
I was like, this new one, because they said the new helmets are this one. It was the picture on the left. And I was like, let me go see if I can find more. I'm like, is this really for Vegas? Because it looks so similar to the previous helmet. But then on the back, you can see it says Vegas on the side. I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely the Vegas helmet.
Yep. I mean, again, he's like Fernando, like he's going to keep the main theme and then he'll just switch it up a little bit, which I love.
But I almost thought like his has always got this really cool, or I think most of the time has this really good shine, and I like his that shine. And it's like Danny had to shine his up.
So Daniel came out with his late, like I swear it was the day of qualifying. So I had already done a reel about the liveries and the lids that had come out. And then I did an update because then Alex Albon came out and Charles and Carlos came out. And then the next day Daniel came out. And I was like, oh. But I love the blue and the silver. And they did have, what do you call those things? Transformers. There was something tied in with that in this weekend. So to me, that's
I almost grabbed that from their Twitter, but they had some Transformers stuff. And then Valtteri's. This one is so cool.
Yeah, his girl does a great job designing these helmets. I love that it's a little bit more whimsical than some
Yeah.
of the other helmets. It's got, Planet Vegas, and so it's kind of got a, an otherworldly kind of feel to it, but then some of the iconic Vegas things on there, the sphere, not the sphere. What do they call it? The stratosphere. See, every time I see the
It's almost
sphere,
like the strip looked like it was futuristic Vegas too, which is
yeah,
what I thought was cool. Yeah,
yeah,
me being a space lover, I really like their helmet. It's
yeah.
fun and
That
tuned,
was
and yeah, I like them. It's really good.
that was awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
we covered delivery for and the overalls for
Ferrari.
Ferrari last week, so I
Yeah,
didn't re-include them this week.
yeah. But they did come out with some helmets, and then Alex Albon had a helmet that was really cute. Also, it was more whimsical, and apparently the whole thing was done with marker. So I thought that was like, I don't know, it just looked really, really, really
I
good.
should have just gone and checked every driver's Twitter. There's just so many.
There were so many, and I kept trying to send them, and I was sending them on all different, like, I don't know, we chat on like so many different platforms. So it's like I'm not good about sending them all to the same one, so you could be like, oh, here they all are. The sphere, though, talking about the stratosphere is one thing. That's like the tall thing building that was on the back of Valtteri's helmet. And then there's the sphere, which is the new like sphere globe that is a venue of some sort. So I kind of feel like that was starting with the Netflix Cup, moving on. It was like the unofficial star of the race because
Well,
they
it was last week that they had the picture of it was a billionaire that paid to have that ad on it that said everyone knows that Red Bull cheats.
see. I didn't see that. You mentioned that last week too. And is that for real? Like, have we verified that a billionaire actually paid to do that? Like, I can't imagine that the
I know
sphere.
somebody photoshopped that. Like, there's an image of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a Photoshop because people were doing that. I can't imagine that the sphere with F1 coming in would put up something like that. Like that is a that would be a huge like conflict of interest there. I don't think F1 would be super thrilled with that, but a lot of the stuff that they were doing with that sphere was kind of amazing to me, even with the golfing, where something was happening on the golf course and you could see the sphere in the background and it would just change. And it was like the eyes would be, looking, or, maybe Carlos was hitting. And so they would put up, Carlos's picture. And it was just amazing how quickly they could time everything to what's either happening on the track or was happening on the golf course. So I liked that they did the countdown. So like before FP1, FP2, all of that, the sphere was just a giant time clock. That was really cool. And then they did announce that during the Grand Prix, they would not use the colors blue, red, and yellow unless it was for like a flag situation. So that was kind of cool. I think people got confused, and I know I did as well, because during qualifying and stuff, there was the big Chrome logo, which Claire is showing right now on the YouTube channel. And I think everybody was like, hold on. There was an agreement that these colors, specifically 3 of these 4 colors that are in the Chrome logo, would not be used on the sphere. But I think it was just during the GP and not during qualifying or practice. So, yeah.
And as I was telling you, I was paying attention that the second time I watched the race, and there was a lighter blue that was showing, and it wasn't the deep blue of a blue flag. So I think it really just came down to the colors of the flag, because I did notice during the yellow flag, it would turn yellow, and as soon as the green flag would go, the whole thing would turn green again. So
yeah,
that makes sense. They were using that, and then the checker flag, it turned checkered.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Oh, I have to go back and watch. I kind of am curious. I don't think I've heard anything about the drivers talking about that. Like if it was annoying or if they didn't mind it. I don't think I've heard anything on that. So I'll keep my eyes open, because that was one question I had last week. But the drivers had a lot of thoughts on a lot of things this week. To say the least.
And as much as, and I had a lot of conversation about this with my partner while we were watching or before we rewatched the race. I've had my issues, you could say, or just ickies with Max all season, and a lot of it comes from his lack of respect toward others. I feel during, and maybe it's just because that's what the Netflix show would show, but I've kind of seen it somewhat during this year on the track over radio. Even today, when he got handled the penalty, he's like, "Send them my regards."
Yeah,
and it's like that kind of attitude. I don't know, just it's some of the disrespect I see him do, but at the same time, he says things that are quite humbling and quite on point, and I feel like over time it's getting better. And then I have to start coupling in, you were talking about like the stuff about his father and how he grew up, and that probably has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate on such a public stage that he was so exacerbated with a lot of the negative attitude and whatnot that it turned me and some other potential fans off, right? Because that's really what it was. It's some of the attitude turned me off from the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the things he said, like when he that one I sent you where he talked about the whole point of it being, as a kid, what they grew up with, it, they're thinking about the passion and the emotion of the sport and being there for how hard the drivers and the teams work. And I like that he called out the teams and the engineering and people coming to understand what they do.
Mm-hmm.
He literally says you can go get, drunk, and watch a party and hang out with your mates and go to a concert and whatnot. And it's all well and good and do that. In fact, you can go to Vegas and he likes to do that, go bet on red, blah, blah, blah. But that's not an F1 race. This is an F1 race and it's different. And so I liked how he's trying to put the context around it as a spectacle and a party versus the F1 race and, and how hard they work for that. So that I had a lot of respect for that.
I think with Max, and I do think that the way he grew up, I think, just the culture and stuff that he grew up in, Max is just who he is. And you're going to ask him a question and he's going to tell you honestly how he feels about it. And that part I actually do respect because I don't want to be with somebody I have to guess how you're feeling. Now, maybe he could say it a slightly different way, but that just wouldn't be Max. That like he just says what he says. And I actually had a little thing. So not only did he talk about just coming to the races and enjoying the races for what the race is, but he I think somebody asked him, what do you think of this track versus Monaco? And he said, Monaco is Champions League and this is National League. And so I'm thinking that's a football reference. And so that wasn't really good. Hang on. I have a whole bunch of stuff because he was more chatty, I think, this go round than he usually ever is. But I think also at the same time, I think his tune changed after he won last night. He was definitely having some fun in the car. But so he said, this event is 99% show, 1% sport. On the promoter, he said, these people live in their own world and that's no use to us at all. On refunds, which we'll talk about in a minute, he said, I would tear the whole place down. The ceremony, we look like clowns. I loved how he stood up for Sainz quite a bit. He stood up for Sainz after the penalty, which again, we'll talk about. And he said, that's very harsh. It just, emotion, passion, it's not there compared to some of the old tracks. The manhole cover, you really don't have to have a high IQ to know that. So I'm guessing, that if that's loose, I've had better tracks in my life. In this political environment, everyone thinks about themselves. And, again, that's talking about the FIA. And on Toto Wolff, which again, we'll talk about, he had a lot to say about Toto. But Max wasn't the only one. So Lewis had even said that, we can't come into town like a circus with all this glitz and glamour. And then, it's negatively affecting the people that live there, which I think is, spot on. And not to say that they didn't have positive things to say, because I think you're hearing one thing and then they turn around and say something else. Lando also said, it's just more of a show than it has been a few years ago. I just want to come and race. They all said at the same time, it's part of their job and they'll do it. And, it's fun. I hope some of them got to go out. I heard there's a lot of teams are leaving. We're leaving early this morning to get, because they go to Abu Dhabi next. So we've got a long flight. We've got to rest. And, but hopefully some of them pulled an all-nighter, went and celebrated a little bit, and then got to go. So I've got a fun fact for you before we start diving in. So Fernando is the only driver that was alive the last time a GP was held in Vegas. At the same time, that doesn't seem right. How old is Lewis and Checo? Fernando's 40-something.
They're like 30-something, Diane. They're 30, I think.
Okay.
Hey.
Jeez Louise. They're so young, all of these people. Anyways, congrats to Fernando. I love him.
Sergio Perez. That's a good question. Sergio Perez.
He would have been like 90.
He was born in 1990.
90. Yeah. Yeah. Fernando's the only one.
33.
There's a fun fact for you. Because if you don't know, Vegas.
That's not right. That is not right, because the 80s were only like 20 years ago.
Well, it was like a couple weeks ago for me, because I dressed up like the 80s for a party. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So funny. I know. Okay, let's get into FP1. So throughout the whole weekend, everybody was so concerned about the temperature. Remember, we talked about it. It was not as bad as they thought it was going to be. For FP1, it was 66. The drivers did note that turns 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that, was different than what they were driving on the sims. So it took a minute. And I mean, granted, we only ended up having 9 minutes of FP1, but you could tell like the drivers were very hesitant or tentative in the way that they were driving, just trying to figure out how to get the tires warmed up. But then also that section was not what they thought it was going to be. Some parts of the circuit were recently surfaced. So that was a little interesting. And just like a good street circuit, it's so narrow. And that always freaks me out. It just always freaks me out. So Valtteri was the first one to go out, and you could hear like the little squeaking, and everybody's rear end was a little bit loose that was going out there. Max was, kind of losing that little bit at the end. Tons and tons of dust, feedback from the drivers. The grip is low. Yeah, I mean, they're getting super close to that wall, but again, that's a street track. Stroll, for some reason, was out of his car with 52 minutes left. I don't know if we ever heard exactly why, but do you know?
No.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Right after that, my world fell apart. It fell apart. So Carlos, if you didn't watch it and haven't seen the replays, is driving, and you hear a thud, and his car kind of jumps forward a little bit, and then he pulls over. And we're all thinking, including myself, darn it, the reliability of Ferrari sucks. What is happening? And then so session is, yellow flagged, and we're trying to figure out what are we going to do? 9 minutes left. So then they call a red flag, and they realize, oh crap, Carlos is not the only car with damage. So Ocon has damage. His whole chassis broke, which totally sucks. Zhou, I think, also had damage. And more stuff starts coming out fairly quickly. And they realize that a manhole cover or drain cover or whatever you call it has sucked out of the ground. And now they have to stop.
The concrete failure or something like that. It caused it to pop up.
But I think the concrete failure probably happened when it hit the bottom of his car and came crashing back down. With all of that force, I don't believe that it was a concrete failure. I'm just going to say that. That's crazy.
Well, I think the concrete failure probably happened on Ocon's because he went across it first, I thought, and it broke his chassis. Was it not?
No, he came right behind Carlos.
Okay,
he was right behind Carlos.
Concrete failure was that when Carlos hit it because that was the thud, and then it dropped, and then Ocon came across it. That's what cracked his chassis.
Yeah. It was awful. Like, I could not believe it. So 9 minutes of practice, cars are damaged. Esteban's got a broken chassis. He was hoping it would get done before FP2. Close everything down. Carlos said afterwards that his seat was also damaged. So there's a grocery list of items that happened that needed repair on Carlos's car after that. But he did say his seat was damaged. He had a big hit to the his back and his head. Max said apparently later in a presser that the force, it was so hard that Carlos couldn't feel his feet. And that worries me because he could have lifelong back issues. So that's a little scary. And then there's a lot of reports that you could see the ground through the floor. That's how much damage it did to the bottom of his car. Very scary to me.
Well, what got me is all the sensors, and they kept talking about how advanced the sensors are in these cars and on the track and whatnot. He hit, and you hear he actually hit it at about the 7.5 minute mark. And they keep talking about 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 minutes. 9 minutes is when they called the red flag.
Yes.
It was around the 7.5 minute mark that he hit it. And he starts going, the car's like shut off, and they're like, oh, that's a shut off. And I wonder, and they're like blaming it on the reliability of the Ferrari.
Yeah.
And then, Ocon goes over it, and then another car goes over it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to say, oh, we've had a track failure. We've had something on the track that caused this. And now it's causing potential damage to other cars. What if that chassis crack would have caused Ocon's car to bust apart and he have a catastrophic failure, or the next car, because there's cars it's fine because he moved over to the left, leaving the space open only on the right for people to continue to drive over that bad spot in the street.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ocon
for a minute and a half.
Yeah. I mean, they had the yellow, so they would have had to slow down, but you're still, like you said, if that's not what you're looking for and you just think Ferrari has a failure of some sort. But Ocon in the car behind,
all of the cars were out. If all of the cars had been out, if we'd been in a race, if all the cars out, if we'd been in a race, it could have been so much worse.
So bad. Yeah. I mean, to have two teams have to basically repair cars from the ground up is ridiculous. And it was completely a track failure. So
yeah, and the solution was like, oh, we should, the engineers like, we should pack these with sand. I'm like, why didn't you do that to begin with? Why is the solution was that every drain around the track, that's why it took 5 hours, is they had to pack them all with sand and reinforce them all around the track. Why wasn't this figured out beforehand?
Yeah. Well, they said that the organizers, whatever, had gone to other street tracks in Singapore and stuff to find out how do they, keep the races going without having issues with the roads. And they could have purchased some special, I think, drains or something to put in, but the city did not want to, if they had to replace one, did not want to have to go to, like, say, Germany. I don't know if that's where they were made, but that's a country that was referenced to buy replacements. So they decided to kind of do their own thing because they didn't want to have to go to another country if they needed to replace things down the road. So, I mean, to me, that's so bad. Like, you have people's lives in your hands.
Well, this is two things here. Two things about that. One, you are trying to bring this race back year over year. That's the price you pay to bring this race back year over year because you're trying to bring back. Two, for those who aren't from America, that's exactly how America looks at things and trying to maintain their roads. They want the cheapest thing for the cheapest way to maintain it and not pay for longevity and not pay for something that's good. So
yeah. Exactly. And they will put off repairs until they absolutely positively have to. And even then it might be failing.
They're going to love how smooth that road is because I heard a story about it's the first time that road's been really repaired in years. And so it's going to be just, and I've been there before you too. It's going to be, wow, it's going to be a nice, smooth, street for a while.
Yeah.
And year over year, it'll get repaired because of the race.
Yeah. It's funny because after that happened, I posted something and somebody popped into our DMs, and she lives in Vegas, and she said, I'm a resident of Vegas. This is just typical, blank road work. This is Las Vegas roads. That's typical. Like, so yeah, they will be excited about that. So the estimate is it's 1.5 million to repair Carlos's car. Not only that, but it affected his entire weekend, because we'll get onto that. So
how does that affect their cost
cap? What's that?
How does that affect their cost cap budget?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea how repairs fit into that, if it's already built in, or it's just, having to use those parts. I honestly have no idea. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I have to look at that.
So as the word on the street is that the principals or the teams were asked if Carlos should receive a penalty, the 10-place penalty, for all of the parts that he had to replace, because now he's gone over his allotted, number of parts, et cetera, et cetera. And the word on the street is only Mercedes said yes. And I guess it had to be unanimous. And so, so that's why Carlos got the 10-place grid penalty. And Max referred to this in a presser. He said, this is why teams should not have a say in penalties. And he was defending Sainz in that case, because one person, Toto Wolff, allegedly said Ferrari should get the penalty. They're replacing the parts. They should get the penalty. We all know if that was George or Lewis, Toto would be losing his mind. And it all started to make sense, because prior to hearing that news coming out, the principals, and it was James Vowles, Fred was on the panel, Toto, and I think there was one other principal after, I guess, at the end of that night. And Toto lost his mind about, like, why is everybody getting so upset about this? Nobody is even watching FP1 in Europe. We should be thanking the people, Liberty Media, for bringing this and putting this all together. And like, he went on, like, I felt scolded, and I'm watching it through a, TV screen. And then when all the stuff came out, like, he was the one that was like, no, they should get the penalty. It kind of makes sense. Like, he was clearly passionate about that. And he was trying to get his point across, even in that presser. Like, no, that's not right. We should be thanking Liberty Media, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's a very kind of a long thing. So I don't think it was right. First, I was kind of like mad. And then I was like, well, we want F1 to follow the rules. And if this is the rules, and it's happened in the past, which we know about, and I sent you a thing that it happened to George when he was with Williams in 2019. And, I think he had a penalty. Then we have to just suck it up and follow the rules. But then the more I started thinking about it, I was like, this is baloney. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter if it happened in the past and George didn't get a penalty. We know it wasn't right then, and it's not right now. Like,
and it's one of those things right. The cars, and I think it was Toto or one of them, like, said that they should have their car be more prepared, or if they can't handle blah blah blah. The cars are designed in specifications for the track to meet a certain specification. The track needs specifications. So who needs to be penalized are the track providers.
Yeah.
So Vegas needs to be penalized. The money, a fine, they need to pay for the repair of the car, and have some kind of notice that if you can't keep your track going forward, then we're not going to come back. Now, it's kind of difficult since F1 put their freaking headquarters there. But the whole thing is that there's got to be some kind of, you have to live up to your end of the bargain to not ruin these multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment and all the time and energy that these teams go into it, because the teams build it to a specification, expecting the road conditions to be such that it'd be one thing if they drove up on the curb and it was because they hit the curb and your car can't handle the curb and you should have known. It'd be one thing if you ran into the wall because you couldn't handle the wall and but they were on the track, the legal portion of the track. The track should be free of debris, and it should be meeting the specifications for the car, for the floor to be as low as it was. So if the car is in specification and the track is not, the driver and should not be penalized.
Yeah. This had nothing to do with Carlos. It had, like you said, it had nothing to do with Carlos. It had nothing to do with his driving. It had nothing to do with our strategy. Absolutely nothing. There was, it could have been Esteban behind him. Maybe Carlos got past it, but it was going to happen to Esteban. It doesn't matter which driver it was. There was nothing they could have done to prevent that from happening at all. And there is fortunately a precedent where F1 has paid for repairs. And I know Fred was furious. Like he said, this is absolutely unacceptable for F1. Carlos was furious. Like he was still talking about it even after qualifying, which had to be insult to injury for him because he qualified Q2. He qualified P2. And then he's got a 10 place drop back to 12 for nothing that he did. How frustrating. It changes that one thing. And this is, why we're spending so much time talking about FP1. That one thing changed Ferrari and Carlos's entire weekend. It could have been 2 Ferraris on that podium today. It could have been Charles and, maybe Charles would have won. Like it changes everything through no fault of their own. And so
there's a financial impact so many times over, not just the cost of repairing the car, but the points, the ending standings. There's just so much. And and we're lucky it didn't have a life impacting, situation here. And it's just, this is definitely something. And what I had seen was their statement was that there was no rule for it per se. And, and blah, blah, blah. Well, then you need to make a rule. There needs to be a rule because if you've got specifications for the track, then there needs to be a rule.
Yeah. And I agree with Max that the teams, we don't put it up for a vote. No. We don't put it up for a vote. So there's always somebody that's salty. I think, I like Toto in some instances. Right now, I don't like Toto at all. I think that's very, it's not good because I always try to think in any situation, roles reversed, how would I react? Roles reversed, we all know Toto would have lost his ever-loving mind and if it was one of his drivers. So it's like so maddening. And everybody, even down to the commentators, people on online, the commentators yesterday, probably 2 or 3 times during the race said, the worst penalty ever in F1. Everybody's mad about Carlos's penalty. For them to be talking about it when, they're F1 TV, it was horrible decision. F1, like absolutely awful. And then you get to the fans. So you had what 9? So at the 9-minute mark, it comes out no more FP1. Then there's a 2.5 hour delay for FP2, which started at 2:30. At 1:30, they told the fans, "Y'all need to go. You need to go." I kept seeing online that it was because like security didn't have, I don't know, they didn't want to pay overtime.
Well, they claimed that there was that because the staff, it was a combination of the staff, they didn't have the staff to cover for security and the bus drivers. And this is true. The Department of Transportation does have limits on how long people can drive and whatnot. It's just like airline pilots and stuff. And because they had been sitting there for so long, waiting, bus drivers transporting people back and forth, they were about to hit their limits of how long they could be on staff. And they didn't have staffing to do additional shifts. So they needed to get everyone out to get them back because it would have been too late. So they didn't plan well, and I think it's a combination of that. And they need to get everybody out because they needed to get the roads back open at 4 a.m. Right.
There was that too.
I think it was both, but that was what they put out in their official presser.
Yeah. That's the part that I heard was because they had this agreement with the city to reopen the roads at 4 or 4:30 or 5 or whatever it was. They could not have all these fans pouring out into the streets at that time. So yeah, you sit there and you wait and it's supposed to start at whatever time. And then 2.5 hours, and then they're like, bye, you need to go. So I would have been so livid as a fan. I have a friend that is there. And so I asked him, I'm like, how did that go down? And I want to get a little bit more details because I'm like, were you so mad? Like, I'm really bummed that this is his first F1 race. And I'm sad that you only got to see 7 minutes of cars. And he did say that the initial cars looked tentative. So he was very excited to see them come out and go full force in FP3. But he said for them, it wasn't bad. He's like, there's so much stuff set up around the sphere. And there's like the stage and stuff over there. And, they left, but he does have a really, tend to have a really good positive attitude, but still. So
fans, if you're a 2-day or 3-day ticket, it's not a big deal. It's those people in the 1-day ticket that only got the Thursday ticket.
Which they were pushing those so much towards the end because, I mean, again, they had all these open seats. So they F1, Las Vegas, whoever was really pushing these. So what they did because of all the uproar is F1 Las Vegas said, we'll give you a $200 voucher to the people who had Thursday only tickets to be used at the Las Vegas Grand Prix store. So it's like you couldn't, I don't think you can just go to F1 and use it. You can't use it on another ticket someplace. And I think the ticket somebody I had read was about $180. I don't know. So maybe they end up a little bit better, but do I want to go buy Las Vegas Grand Prix merch? No, I don't buy Austin merch.
What happened afterwards? I found an article while we were talking. They had put those fences up around, the barriers and along the strips, and they put like this black plastic up to block it so you couldn't see it. Fans ripped it down. And the F1 officials and whatnot tried to put it back up. There's pictures that no, it got ripped down. So all the places along the strip where they tried to block it so people couldn't see it for free, it got ripped down. And a lot of places where people were able to still watch the race.
Good for you, Las Vegas people. Well, Max did say, so when Max was told that the fans were getting that $200 voucher, Max said, so then they make money too, because if you haven't been to an F1 race, whether it's the merch for the race venue, so like Austin has their own merch line, Barcelona does. This is to the Las Vegas Grand Prix store. They had a lot of cool looking merch, but it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So Max says, so they're going to make money off of it too. And he's like, if I were a fan, I would tear that whole place down. He's like, that can't be true, can it? So I bet those people listened to Max and they were like, let's take it down. Let's take it down. And now there's a class action lawsuit.
Yes, some were clad in team merchandise, successfully tore through to gain a view of the track on the strip and beyond. Event staff attempted to replace the screens after their damage, but were unsuccessful. There's pictures of people along the catch fence in several places ripped the whole thing down, or they ripped holes in it to be able to get through and watch it.
Oh my gosh, that's
they
amazing.
Also prevented shops along the strip from selling glass items during specific times.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I noticed the Heineken 0.0, so I'm guessing they weren't selling alcoholic beer at the venue. But obviously in Vegas, if you haven't been, you can buy a drink, and there's like yard drinks that are like this tall, and walk around the strip with them. It's not a big deal to walk around with your alcohol. And in some European cities, you can do that. But in America, that's not a thing, really, except in Vegas. So, yeah, now there's a class action lawsuit against, it's Liberty Media, the Las Vegas Grand Prix, the contractors. Yeah, so that's going on. So if you had a Thursday only ticket, you might maybe want to get in on that.
Here's a fun little thing. According to oh my gosh, we were just talking about the track and the track causing issues and whatnot. McLaren is now going after them because they're saying his crash was caused by the track.
It was, and I have that later on in the notes for the race. But yes,
sorry. Oh my gosh, because I'm trying to find one feedback for the race for us. It just happened. To a couple people.
Yeah,
I feel like
so. To me, yesterday, the funniest thing was after all of this stuff was happening and people are just trashing the Las Vegas Grand Prix after FP1 and FP2 and all that good stuff. Las Vegas Grand Prix post on their social media, like, put your deposits down for the 2024 Grand Prix. And people were roasting them. They're like, read the room. Timing is not good on this. Some people are just like, shut up. We hate you. Like, going on and on and on. Then F1 had a post that showed the little battle in quali between Ocon and Max. And the Las Vegas Grand Prix said, oh, so much drama, and the race hasn't even happened. And again, people losing their minds. Like, you are the cause of the drama. What are you talking about? Shut up. Like, refund the money. like, read the room. I think they were trying to go for, you know how some admins on social media accounts for companies can be a little saucy and it's funny.
Yeah.
And people are like, I think that's what they were trying to like take a new tact, and they're like, let's do this. And people will be like, haha, you're so funny. No, people did not love it at all. They were getting roasted like crazy. So FP2 rolling into that, delayed by 2.5 hours, extended to 90 minutes. So they did get a little bit of time. So they, what else? Ferrari did protest the penalty because shouldn't have happened. And that's when, like you were saying, F1 came back, or FIA came back and said, I don't know, whatever their lame ass response was. So he gets the 10 place grid penalty, but there's nobody there. It's like COVID times where you're racing to like nobody. It was such a bummer
to watch. So they go by. The stands are just dark and just bleak, and
it's quiet except for the cars, and I can't even imagine like that whole day. So the drivers, you and I had talked about this during the week, like the drivers were very busy, and they always are when they go into a race. Generally, they have their promotions that they have to do. They have their social media stuff that they're filming. They tend to be very busy, and it's not unusual for them. Like when we think about Singapore, they adjust their times. The teams adjust their times. So they're getting sleep and they're going to bed later and they're sleeping in more. And so none of that stuff is really that different. But this go around was so different because they weren't planning to be at the track until what time did practice end? Like 4 or something, you said? I was waking up
4
Vegas
a.m.
time. Yeah, 4 a.m. local time. Because I think I got up at 5:15 and you're like, oh my God, practice just ended. Because I woke up like, I went to bed at, I don't even know what time, midnight, 11 o'clock. I don't even know. And I woke up thinking, what happened in FP2? Like, because FP1 was so crazy. And you're like, it literally just got over. I think we were talking on the phone. You called.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, my mom was like, oh no, it just ended. When you called me, it had just ended. You're like, what? I'm like, no, literally, it got delayed and it just ended.
Yeah. Craziness. So for the drivers and the teams, it's like they get to the track early, right? They are hanging out. It's delayed. They're done at 4. Their day is actually not done. They still have a debrief to do. That can take an hour to an hour and a half. Even if they went on the shorter side just to get everybody to bed, you end at 5-ish. You got to go back to your hotel room. You're probably all jazzed up. I think we've all been there where we've been to a concert or some sort of event. And you get home and you're still like, your adrenaline and stuff is just going. So those drivers, like, I just felt for them. So when starting FP3, you're technically supposed to have 18 hours between the end of FP2 and the start of FP3, but they didn't have that. So what did the FIA do? They created a special rule to override the curfew and push
that.
Right? I thought you can't do it for Carlos because allegedly one principal or one team said, no, we can't do that. But they didn't want to push the times back again. So they made a decision to keep the times. They made an exception to lift the curfew so the teams could go back into the garages and do their thing. So when the green light went on, the crowd went nuts because they couldn't see anything the day before. But what was funny is like nobody went out FP3. They're all just sitting around. And finally, the McLarens went out like a couple minutes in. They did overnight also lengthen one of the DRS zones. I want to say it was by like 50 meters. if I'm not, I think I'm correct on that, 50 meters, because the teams and drivers provided feedback that they didn't think there would be a lot of overtaking, which that did not turn out that way. But, maybe it's in part to extending the DRS zone. But anyways, they did that. Yeah, lots of track evolution. That was kind of the interesting thing to see. And the top 5 kept changing because, again, that track evolution, once they were actually out there and they were figuring out their tires, like you had like Ocon in the top 5, Alex is in the top 5, like George Russell, Logan Sargent, like in the top 5. Craziness. So, yeah. Then at the end, yeah, Alex kind of tapped the wall. It wasn't a brutal hit, but he hit the wall. His whole rim fell off, tire went rolling, and that brought out a red flag. But I think there was only like 3 or 4 minutes left, so not too bad. But Stroll ended up with a 5-place grid penalty after that, for overtaking during a yellow during practice. So was that the 5 grid or was that the 5 second? Because he had 2 different things going on.
I thought it was the 5 place. That was the first one. Then later got that one. And it was interesting when they showed it because it was like, well, at least how they were showing it with the commentators and like at the beginning of quality talking about it. That's when I added in there. I was like, well, wait a minute. He's off the guy. I think it was when Yuki went off the track and went into that
runoff area.
And it's like, well, how can he not overtake? He's in the runoff. Like,
I think it was more, well, I don't know if it was overtaking or if it was he didn't slow down. But, I mean, it happened so fast right there. Like, I don't know. But then quali, so all I kept thinking was, like, this is your kind of quali. Because all the cars were out there. All out there. Like, in Q1, I think they were all out there the entire time except one, I think, went in. Yuki, maybe. No. I don't know who it was. I think somebody went in Q1. But everybody was out there. Their cars were full with fuel because they did not want to have to come back in, go in the garage, get more fuel, like, which is weird. Like, we're not used to that kind of stuff.
No, it was really weird. Norris went in early. He went back early, which was a little weird because, and then he didn't get a good time at the end. That was the one who wasn't up the whole time.
Yeah, that was not good. Mercedes was the last one to go out. And Norris was in the pits when it actually finished. And because of that, and because of the evolution and the cars are just out there doing faster, he was out in Q1. So it was Norris, Ocon, Zhou, Piastri, and Yuki all out in Q1. Lando, and I always do recommend this if you've been listening to our podcast, he stayed in his car for quite a while after qualifying ended. I think, he was hoping for somebody to get a penalty or something so he could go back out.
They were investigating Hamilton, Russell, Albon, Zhou, Gasly, and Bottas, all for maximum delta time.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
He said because there's so many, they were probably just going to let it go.
They've been letting it go like this, like, because that's been a thing, it seems like the last few years, and nobody's gotten penalized for it. So how you would penalize, I wasn't even worried about that one. Yuki, though, when they backed him into his garage.
Sorry. It was in Q1 that he got the passing, not slowing for passing him in the spin out. That was the not slowing.
Mm.
That was the penalty there, and that was the turn 5 failing. I don't know which penalty got him the grid versus. I think this is when he got the 5 second. The earlier one was overtaking. That wasn't the Yuki one. The second one was the Yuki one.
Oh, I thought it was flip flopped. I thought first it was 5 seconds because I remember thinking like, well, that's weird, and then he got the grid drop. But either way, like, Lance, you need to pay attention. When Yuki got back into the garage, that little head thing, I can't remember what it's called. He took it off and like threw it to the front of his car, like over the nose of his car. I was like, geez Louise, Yuki, like, come on. And please do not pull a Stroll. Like, come on. And then it was either Stroll or Daniel that was the one that knocked out Lando. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I'm not sure. So then in Q2, we had, sorry, my notes, like, it's such a crazy weekend. With 10 minutes left, there was a bunch of cars in the pits. So like Q2, it's like they kind of started going back to their usual little thing. But they knew that they wanted to like be the last car out there. They knew that they had to go out, do a lap, do a cool down, and then do their fast lap. So they, I guess, were trying to figure out what they were doing. Perez in the pits, like you had mentioned, he was in the pits at the end. What's that?
Those last ones in the end, they were killing me. They're just waiting to the end.
They totally did. Yeah, Hamilton was out by 0.02 of a second. Checo was out because he's in the pits. Hulkenberg, Stroll, and Ricciardo were all out. But Williams got both of their cars into Q3, which was awesome. It's their best finish in like 7 years, or best qualifying. I don't even know. That was at the end, I guess. Their best qualifying in 7 years. But when Alex crossed that line and he popped up into 6th place, I was sitting on the couch and my dogs were with me and I just screamed. And they were sleeping. They jumped up like you could see if you're on my YouTube channel. Let me see. Let me move. There's Huckabee. He was sound asleep and he's like, oh, like what is happening? And he's deaf. So it's like that's how loud, or at least how high pitched I scream. So Alex Albon was also fastest on the straights in Q2. Number
one. It was
one.
amazing. The comparisons they were doing, it was amazing.
And what did we say last week? I said, who's fastest on the straights? Williams is fastest on the straights.
That's why I picked him on my predictions that he was going to make it up the pole. But
me too. I would have loved to have seen that. And oh my gosh. So last night in the Miss Universe pageant, Thailand was first runner-up. But I was like, if she wins, this is going to be a premonition that Alex Albon is going to do well. But she got first runner-up. So so Alex Albon finished outside the points. There's my little tie-in. Ferrari and Williams were the only two teams to have both of their drivers into Q3, which also was crazy. Like, yeah, didn't have that on my bingo card. Never would have thought at the beginning of the year that would be like at the very first Las Vegas Grand Prix, it's going to be Williams and Ferrari with the two cars in. So Q3, everybody at the beginning in the pits except for George. George went out on his own, which I think is not a bad idea. Like with so many yellow flags and stuff, I don't know why they weren't all going out. But
you just never know.
Yeah, Max was close to the wall. 3 minutes left. Albon, Sargent, Bottas had no time. That was stressing me out. Big time. Like absolutely big time. Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Russell, Gasly, Albon, Sargent. That was the very top. When Logan crossed, he came up in 4th and then he got pushed down a little bit. But again, I was like, oh, Logan Sargent in 4th. And I think it's Alex on F1 TV said exactly the same thing as soon as I finished saying it. Like Logan Sargent in 4th place. I've said it for weeks now. He's keeping his seat. I totally think that is going to happen. Oh, yeah. I don't know why we're waiting at this point. Just say it out loud because he did a great job. He was right up there, like with Alex all the way through. So good for him. So Charles first, Carlos qualified second. There was 0.044 is all that separated the two of them. That to me is where I'm like, this has to be killing Carlos. And he still didn't have nice things to say. And he was just like, I'm so frustrated. I'm so mad because 0.044 to your pole sitter, to your teammate, knowing you have to go back 10 spots, that is adding insult to injury. I think it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Whether it was him or anybody else, it's not okay. So with Carlos having to drop back, both Williams, Logan and Alex were on the 3rd row. I was so proud of them.
That was so amazing.
Proud of them. Okay, race. Woo, we are just jamming through this. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was hoping for the best. And then for this race, the whole GP in general, the whole weekend. And then it started off kind of how I feared it was going to go with FP1 and then FP2. This race was amazing. I think it was honestly one of the best races of the season. I loved all of the action, wheel-to-wheel action all throughout. to have your lead change as many times as it did. I think it was just the 3 drivers. So Max, Charles, and Sergio. But the back and forth and how close those 3 were at the end. Amazing race. Like, I love it. Like, almost take back so much stuff that I said over the weekend. Sometimes just to myself, but like it was good. And you know what? The drivers were like, that was a fun like, that was good. I think Max was surprised at the end. I think that's why he was kind of like, more jovial and stuff. I think he was a little nervous at times, like especially when Charles caught him, and we'll talk about that stuff here in a second. But I kind of apologize to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. This is what I was hoping for, and I wish like the whole weekend would have been just smooth like that. But some of that is crazy. So before the race, they always do the driver's parade, and Lewis Hamilton, I was like, I saw a photo of him, and he's sitting in Checo's car, and you could tell like it had number 11 and then Checo Perez, and then it said Lewis Hamilton was just kind of slapped underneath it. And I was like, what are they doing? Come to find out, the car that Lewis was supposed to go in, and they're all old cars. It depends on the track. Sometimes they're, a lot of vintage cars. Sometimes they're not. But the car Lewis was supposed to go in wouldn't start. And then we come to find out that car dumped a ton of oil on the grid. So P2, P4, P6, tons of oil. Not great for when you're starting. So they had something out there putting, I don't know what it was, kitty litter or whatever you put on oil stains to kind of, drop that off. But if you watch the beginning and then like the formation lap, and then you watch the start, you can see where the tire tracks have gone through that stuff. And it's not great for a standing start. It isn't like, but Max still got a good thing. The other thing that was different is the back of that. What's that?
A good start, but a crappy strategy of a start.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Charles was nice. And he said, I think he lost grip, which again, you're standing, and it's a very short run up to that first turn, but still, I don't know what it was, why he pushed Charles off the track. But if you look at the back of the grid, it's on a curve. So I don't know if you noticed, but the back of the grid was on a curve. And so you had like Yuki was back in 20, Lance was in 19. So yeah, they were that. I've never seen that before where they're starting on a curve. I thought that was crazy. But the start was nuts. So like you said, Max pushes Charles off. There was a spin in the back, and I don't even remember who it was. Who spun back there?
Alonso spun. I thought he got hit, but Alonso spun, ended up nose to nose with Bottas. And I think Checo ended up with nose damage too. So Checo, Alonso had nose damage. Bottas, I think, had to come in. I can't remember if he changed his nose out too, but because in the first safety car, they all pitted and did changes and came back out.
Yeah. And there was a whole bunch of other cars that got wrapped up in that, because Carlos got wrapped up in that. And he was in 12th, and he was back at like 19th or 20th after all of that stuff went down. So I don't know what it was that caused that. If it, who knows if it was the kitty litter or whatever they put down, or just the cars, trying to get, because you did not have a lot of space to go, and you had to go quick because that first turn came up really quick.
I swear it looked like he got hit, that Alonso got hit. The commentators are like, he lost his front end. And I'm like, I swear he got hit. And he says, Gardner said he heard him say on the radio that he got bumped. So,
it could be. You had a lot of cars. You had to make a move very quickly off that start, which is,
and it sucks because he was up there in the top 10 and immediately put him, Bottas, and Carlos all ended up then back with Carlos, back like in P18, P17 kind of thing. But it pushed Carlos back too. Like everybody ended up way back.
Yep.
And that's one of those things. Like if he battled from like P18 to like Carlos ended up on P8 or something like that, P9. It's like, or not Carlos, Alonso. He would have ended up even higher. And same with Carlos. Carlos, started and then ended up in the back within the first lap or two because of all that chaos, and he would have ended up even further up. So
Yeah. I know, exactly. So Max did get a 5-second penalty for pushing Charles off the track. Both teams were telling their drivers, like, it's with the stewards. We'll get back to you. But they told Max, don't give back the place. Don't give back the place. And pretty much GP comes on and tells Max, hey, you got 5 seconds, but you're already, 2 seconds ahead. It's lap 8. You're 2 seconds ahead. And Max said, yeah, we're good. Give them my regards. They knew. So I think it was lap 5. There was already 2 yellow flags. And on that second restart, Max, he took off. Absolutely took off. So let's talk really quickly about Mercedes. So Lewis is such a fighter. I know people give him a lot of crap, but he kept getting pushed back and then kept getting himself up into the points. Like, absolutely. It was amazing. I think he got mixed up in some of that drama, or some drama someplace. I don't know if it was on that turn, but he definitely got mixed up in some of that drama, but he kept getting himself back up there. And then he had a little thing with Oscar on lap 17, and he punctured his wheel and barely made it back, I think. I'm so tired. Like, this literally just happened, I feel like, a few hours ago. And I'm like, wait, is that what happened? But he did finally make it back to the pits. And so again, he's back towards the back of the pack. Like, and then he just quietly, because they stopped talking about him, but just kept quietly like passing people and just like getting himself up back into that top 10. Toto was on George's radio a few times trying to motivate him, like, you've got to go get him, you've got to make this happen. And George, on that last lap, he did get into 4th place. So I mean, that last lap was insane, and this was one of the things, and we didn't get to see it, or at least I didn't see it, but George did jump up into 4th, but he had a 5-second penalty, so he dropped back down. So that promoted people. Yeah, that was.
Him got Lewis ahead him into 7th.
What's that?
That dropped him to 8th and Lewis up to 7th.
Yeah, and it promoted a couple other people. So
Ocon to 4th, Stroll to 5th, and Carlos to 6th.
Yeah, which we'll talk about. So Ferrari, it was cracking me up the whole weekend, because usually Charles just has the red and white helmet, but Carlos had a red and white helmet this week too. And so the graphics and even the commentators kept messing them up. They were like, Charles is off. And I'm like, that's clearly not Charles. That is, that is Carlos. So it was kind of cracking me up all weekend, but terrible weekend for Carlos. No fault of his own. Qualified second, ends up in 12th, in 17th place after the stupid thing at the beginning. Lap 16 though. This was Charles' race. Lap 16. Oh my goodness. He was right on Max. I was so excited watching him just like hunt him down. That's really all I can say is, like, he was staying close to him. And when he saw that opportunity, and Max right before that, like, he must have been shaking in his boots, because he's on with GP. Like, hey, my tires, like, this is going to kill my tires. And they're like, just do it.
Because Max was slowing down to go into the pits?
Well, the pits wasn't, he's not slowing down way back there to go in the pits. Charles passed him, and then they still went for a smidge, and then it went. So it wasn't like.
Well, I'm just saying, because they pulled the box, but yeah.
Yeah, but Charles
were falling apart. It was interesting that Red Bull could not manage their tires as well in this race, which is odd.
Yeah, I think everybody had a hard time with that, except for Ferrari, apparently, which is usually one of our issues.
And McLaren.
Yeah.
Because Piastri, if he didn't have to change those tires, he could have finished on those tires.
Oh, crazy. That's crazy. Well, dang it. Because he did pretty good, I have to say, for Oscar. So Max did go into the pits. He had to serve his 5-second penalty. And I think he came out. Where did he come out? Like 11th or something like that. I don't know. Somewhere in there. But I don't know. Carlos, I just was so worried about him because it seemed like he was doing great and then he'd get set back and then he'd do great and then he'd get set back. And on lap 25, both Russell and Max just went right past him. Flew right past Carlos. I was like, dang it. On lap 36, Charles gets back in front. And again, that top three was so close. They were so close. It was so much fun to watch. And to have like that little battle with Checo and stuff, like, oh my gosh.
It was great. I mean, it was, to me, that was like, this is what a fun racing is. This battle here.
Exactly.
We only had a couple of races like that where we've had a really good battle, and it was just so fun.
It was incredible. And that, again, that little battle with Checo, and then that late, like, just Charles just going for it. Like, where did he come from? He was back here, and then boom, he's out in front, which is amazing. I thought it was so cool. But he had a bit of a lockup that allowed Checo to go back through. That was lap 43. There's only 50 laps. And I think the commentators were like, well, that's it. He's not going to get back in front of him, and then, Charles was like, he wanted it so badly. He wanted it so badly. So he went for it. Last lap, as we're counting down, there's 3 laps left. There's 2 laps left. It's a final lap. And he gets past him, and right to the end, they were right across that finish line.
It reminded me of the last one with Alonso, right? And, coming down on Checo like that. It was great.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, poor Checo on that part. But, I mean, great battles.
I love it. Charles was amazing on that. And just precision, not making a mistake, staying on top of him. It was beautiful to watch. Just beautiful to watch.
It was amazing. And good job for him. I mean, he really wanted that win so bad. And he said as much, like, coming across the line. Sadly, it's another Charles pole that Max converted to a win. And that's why I think you had posted the qualifying, and I was like, Charles on pole. Like, I did the eek face emoji because I thought yesterday was his day. I really, really did, but was not meant to be. But he made it a good race. It was so much fun to watch. Absolutely loved it. McLaren, they had a rough weekend just in general. Oscar did get 10th, so that was good. He ended up in the points, but their car just did not seem to like that track at all. Like, not at all. And then Lando, what lap was that Lando went into the...
Right at the end.
No, it was at the beginning.
Lando.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lando second.
Oh, that was only the second lap? Oh my God.
Yeah, it was the second lap.
Boy, I was thinking it was like the 5th or something. Okay, so the second lap, yeah.
So they called the yellow flag, and then but it was the second because it shows he only completed 2 laps. So maybe it was in the 3rd lap that it happened, and it was and all that.
Yeah.
But he only completed 2 laps.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. No. And that was a weird thing too, because it was like, what happened? Like, you just see him all of a sudden and he just went for so far. Thank God there was a runoff area right there, because he skidded for so far. So what they did find out, and you had mentioned this, is that so the principal, Andrea Stella, said that there is a bump there on the track. And he said, you see the sparks when the cars hit it. But Lando, like, trying to get his tires warmed up, like, cold tires, because they had just had one restart, right? They had the yellow flag and then that restart. And hitting the bump the way that he did, he called it just a driver error. But there is a bump there on the track. And again, if they're take the bump out, like, why? We're probably lucky that nobody else hit it the way that Lando did. It was scary because I was sitting here like, is he okay? Because usually they play that radio right away. But what was happening is his engineers had to ask him a couple of times, Lando, are you okay? And first he didn't say anything. And then they asked it again, and they said you could hear him breathing heavy. And finally he said, yeah, I'm good. So they did end up taking him to the hospital. And if you follow Lando Norris, there's some pictures of him on a gurney, like in the hospital with a blanket over him and everything else. They just, for precaution is what they said. And he was checked out and all good. I don't even think he was there very long, but yeah, so that was definitely a bump in the track is what McLaren is saying, and ruined Lando's race. So there you have it. And Oscar, like I said, it was great for him to get in the points, and he had some really good overtakes. I like watching him when he's overtaking other drivers because he has no fear. I think he has no fear passing and making some moves. He just commits and he goes. That's all there is to that. Yeah. Alpine. Oh my gosh. Esteban Ocon was on a mission. Like he was another one that was just constantly like, he's just passing people, just passing.
And it's like he came out of nowhere. I just turned my head and was like, where did this happen? It was like a quiet, like stealthy kind of move up, and then suddenly he's there. It's like, where did he come from? I don't recall him showing up here, and now he's this high up in the grid.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was kind of watching him like overtake. Lap 34, I thought, oh no, here we go, because he's battling with Pierre, and it was kind of funny because the engineer comes on and says, just hold position. Like we need to watch the tires. And Esteban still went ahead of Pierre. He's like, no, I'm going to go. But with George's penalty, Esteban moved into 4th place. So he started, in the bottom 5? He wasn't 19th or 20th. So 16th or 17th or something.
He was P16.
P16 to P4.
Yep.
What? Another reason that this race is kind of fun is, and we'll talk about this in a second, like that top 5, ridiculous. Williams, they didn't finish in the points. James Vowles, I watched his thing today. He just said, I don't know. They're still ahead. They were ahead of AlphaTauri. They were ahead of Haas. They were ahead of Alfa Romeo. But that means next race, the last race, like they have to stay ahead of them because they did not get any points to add a little bit more buffer between them and AlphaTauri. I think it's still 5 or 7 points between the two. So
yeah, there's 7 points ahead of AlphaTauri.
Okay.
Right now.
So that this last race, Abu Dhabi, could mean millions of dollars. So hopefully it's a little bit better of a track for them in Abu Dhabi. Haas, I thought this was interesting. I don't think there's a ton to report home. They started off in the top 10, but they finished outside the points also. But they had different setups. So Kevin was on the newer setup and Nico was on the older setup. But they both did good. Like there one time, I think Hulkenberg would do a little bit better. And then the next time, like Kevin was out qualifying him. So like, hopefully they got some data to work with that they can use for next year's car. Like which way do we want to go? So I wonder if they'll keep that setup for Abu Dhabi or no. I don't know. We'll see. Red Bull. Okay. The race overalls. With all the stuff that Max said, and I think you have this picture of their race overalls.
Oh yeah.
Max, with all the stuff he had been saying, look at this. They were Elvis inspired, one in red. So Checo looks like he races for Ferrari. Max is in white. They have the capes, which they didn't wear during the race, but they literally wore those overalls in the race. Yeah, look at Max's face. After all the stuff he was saying about
Checo got a smile on his face. Max is just smirking. He's not having it.
He's not having it. Why do I have to dress up like Elvis? Like, give me a break. Yeah. Hysterical. Nice job. Nice job, Red Bull. So Perez, like we were saying, oh my gosh, that was another one where it was like, what? Like I did not have him on my prediction at all because I'm thinking he's starting down middle of the pack. I still wasn't sure what the overtaking and stuff was going to look like on that track.
I mean,
I
there's
think that
always
was a
a chance
surprise
with
to
him
everybody.
because he's good at street races, and I should have put that in my factor, but
That's a good point. I didn't think
he's
about
so
that
good at
either.
street races. But the Williams was looking so good. I just had this
Yeah.
anyway.
I know. I for me, they were looking good on the straights. I thought there might be a little bit of drama at the front, and so I thought maybe they could make some places up there
I
and
figured
then stay on the straights. But also, I love Alex Albon.
Albon or Checo.
Yeah, but Checo just did what he has done this whole season. Like he hasn't had a great season, but he hasn't had a bad season either. He's second. He clinched second in the driver championship yesterday. So this is the first time that Red Bull has had the constructor and first and second in the driver championship. So he did that. He just has made it hard on himself this whole year because he qualifies middle of the pack or back of the pack, and then he has to fight his way up. But then he's up at the front with the in the top three battling it out for the win. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that is amazing. Max and Russell on lap 25. George did turn into him. George admitted he turned into him. I posted this as a reel after it happened. But yeah, that little thing, because the safety car did come out because there was some debris. It kind of surprised me because there was front wing damage for Max's car. Did not seem to affect him because he did go into the pits, but it was not long enough to get a front wing replaced.
Max did say at least in that hit, by the way.
What's that?
Max, I would have. Max did at least was like, I don't think he saw me. He wasn't like mad at Russell. He was just like, I don't think he saw me. I don't know what happened. So that was kind of cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think on that track, like it did seem like the drivers were giving each other a lot of leeway, like even Charles, when Max ran him off the road, I think he said, like, what is he doing? But like, I don't think he saw me there. Like, I don't think he realized, like, not that he didn't see me. I think his grip, I think he lost grip and there was just nothing he could do about it. So I think they were very forgiving in that kind of stuff. But that yellow flag also helped Checo because he was able to go into the pits under that yellow, which helped him for the end of the race. So that kind of worked out for sure in Checo's favor. Totally.
Chose not to change his tires at that time, which was.
I know. What are you going to do? Battle for first between Perez and Checo, or Perez and Charles. Amazing. Meanwhile, Max is like in the back, just overtaking car after car after car. What's that?
Battle for second?
No, that's when Charles.
Oh, when they were battling for first.
Battling for first. And Max had gone in and he's like, he's just taking one car down. That was kind of crazy. So I thought it was interesting towards the end when we heard Max call for teamwork. Like, we can take him down if we work together as a team. And I was like, okay, Max.
It was nice to see that he was like, he slowed it down and it didn't work, but.
It didn't work, but Checo did slow down. He did start to back off to give Max a little bit more space. And by the time, Charles caught Checo on that last lap. He would not be able to get to Max, but they did. They worked together and they made it happen. So yeah, amazing. So the top 5, this is what I wrote down. Not who I expected. Max, yes. Charles, yes. Perez, nope. Ocon, no. And Stroll in 5th, hell no. Like, hell no. Lance went from P19 to P5. 19
where
to 5.
did that come from? Well, you were saying with Max and Sergio being 1 and 2 in the constructors, you currently have Lewis is 32 points ahead of Sainz. So,
yeah. Well, the bigger battle for the driver championship is there. So Sainz and Fernando are tied again on points. Lando is like 3 or 5 points behind. 5 points behind him, and Charles just a little bit behind Lando. So again,
Lando.
Talking about the last race of the season, here's another huge battle for fourth place in the driver championship. And like you said, Carlos is not that far off of Lewis. I mean, he'd have to win, right?
There's 32 points. There's no way.
Oh, he can't win. Yeah, no, he can't win. I thought you were saying like 30. So yeah, no, he can't. But so there's a big battle for that's 1, 2, 3, 4 drivers for fourth place. So that's going to be fun. Not only do we have the constructor with like Williams and all of that stuff going on, we've got this battle for fourth in the
and
driver.
Not just that, but in the constructors, Mercedes and Ferrari are 4 points apart.
Yep. Ferrari made up major ground today with Carlos finishing where he did in P6. That was major because both of the Mercedes were behind him. So 4 points is all Ferrari needs in that next race. So yeah, it's the last race of the season. First and second are tied up. The constructors tied up, but there's still a lot of action. And these teams are going to be going for it because they want that. They absolutely want that. So I'm excited for that. So really quickly though, the ending was so weird. So I was a little bummed when I heard there was no cool down room. And then they put all the drivers into a Rolls Royce as like little sparkly on the ceiling. And that basically becomes the cool down room. But everybody looks so uncomfortable because like Max is in the middle and Checo
and the guy out, the extra Red Bull guy.
Yeah, so Charles so nice. Oh, my battery's running low. Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. We better jam through this. So anyways, yes, Charles tried to get the constructor representative in the car, but they were like, no, he doesn't get to go. So then they take the drivers all the way down to the Bellagio and they get interviewed there. And then they make them watch the fountain and the light show set to the Formula One music. And then they put them back in the car. What's that?
They really didn't watch. They were just talking to each other.
Yeah, they were just talking to each other. Okay, I'm going to take you guys for a walk because my battery is going to die, and I don't want that to happen. I did not think we would be going an hour and 36 minutes already, and I did not bring. Okay, hello. That looks crazy. Okay, anyways, so then they make them watch the show, which I think they could have cared less about, to be perfectly honest with you. And then they put them back in the car. And then they take them back to the Hunger Games things, which it looked a lot better from the front because they had all this pretty colors and everything else. And they put them back. And then that's where they do the trophy ceremony. So I feel like, next year, like we can speed that up. They don't care about the Bellagio. I'm sure Bellagio paid money or something to have that happen, but we don't need it.
Well, they needed time to set everything up because they had to roll all that stuff out and everything.
So that's true too. That is true because they rolled that out on the track. Well, let's just have a regular place like all the other places do. I don't know.
We're having a permanent building in place for the race.
Yeah,
you don't have a permanent place for that thing.
Well, they did that because they didn't want to obstruct any views for the Paddock Club because major money was going into that. Mercedes, I think their Paddock Club thing was like $15 million is what it cost. They usually go
and we wonder why Toto is so pro Vegas.
Well, there you have it. Okay, so beyond the grid, let's talk about that really quick. So the Netflix Cup match, first of all, this was Netflix's very first live event. So we'll give them a lot of, grace in how some of that stuff was handled, but it was kind of hard to watch some of it. The sound was terrible. The mics were hot mics and the presenters didn't know they were hot mics and you could hear them whispering or asking like what they're supposed to be doing. But I really thought it was kind of fun to watch. You all know my kids were golfers and, they paired Carlos and Lando were in the same group and that was a really fun group. I didn't think they showed enough of Pierre and Alex Albon. There seemed to be a lot of focus on Carlos and Alex's group. Carlos is definitely probably the best golfer of the four, but it was really fun to watch them. And some of them had some great shots. Some of them had some not so great shots, but it was just fun to watch the pros paired up with the drivers. What I would hope next year,
is that whoever is the presenters, that they understand Formula One. It was driving me nuts that the announcers were calling Carlos Sainz. They said that many times. Carlos Sainz got that, swooped in, Carlos Sainz. And then one guy was clearly told in his ear it's Sainz. And so he's like, okay, yeah, Sainz. That was annoying. There was a guy, which I haven't watched the golf version. It's like Formula One, but golf version for PGA Tour. Also done by Liberty Media, the people that created Drive to Survive. So there's a breakout star on there for a guy that's on the PGA Tour, but he's definitely down towards the bottom. But I just felt like he was kind of rude to the drivers. Like at one point, Pierre hits a shot and he's like, that is the most amateur shot we've seen. It was just not nice. And it's like, he is an amateur. He's a freaking F1 driver and he golfs for fun. And he's doing this because you guys wanted to have a little fun, which I love it. Do the Netflix Cup again next year, please. I love that. But can we not disparage the drivers for their golfing skills? And it just like went on and on and on, where he was saying things like, I don't know, like, oh, here's where amateurs always have a difficult time lining up their putts and, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, Carlos won. It was awesome. It came down to one hole and it was closest to the pin. And fortunately, his pro, Justin Thomas, laid it right in there. Even Pierre, he went up against Pierre. And he had Tony Finau, who stepped in for Colin Morikawa because Colin's back was hurting. So Tony Finau jumped in at the last second. His went off the green. Carlos, I think, was in the water. Pierre was off the green. So it ended great. At the end, they did the champagne, and Carlos is holding the trophy, and it drops.
I dropped it. I saw that.
He dropped it. He pulled a Lando, and you could tell he felt bad. But what I thought was also cute is like the Masters where they get green jackets. They gave them jackets that are like checkered flag. So it's black and white checks. And I thought that's actually really cute. So Carlos Sainz adding another win to his season, this time for the very first ever Netflix Cup. If you hadn't heard, there was a chapel in the paddock. So they added a chapel, and actually 1997 World Driver Champion Jacques Villeneuve got married there. So I don't know if anybody else got married there, but former F1 racer got married at the chapel. And then the drivers were doing all kinds of stuff in that week between Brazil and this. But one of the funny things, and you've got a picture, is Ocon and Leclerc were at the Lakers game. And it was so funny. So the picture at the bottom, I don't know, do you want to tell that story? Because you saw the video too. It was so
yeah, because they came and Esteban has a helmet. I don't know if it was a replica or something to give to LeBron, right?
Yeah.
And he got it there to give it to him. And Charles like, oh, I didn't even know we were coming, or I would have brought you something. Like, I didn't even know I was going to be here and meeting you. Like,
yeah.
Like, no one knew him. And like, where are your media people telling you what's going on, man? Like, he didn't even know he was meeting the guy. He's like, or I would have brought you something.
Yeah. That was the funniest thing, because he's standing there like, how you go to a party or something and you're with a friend and they're like, oh, here's a gift. And you're like, oh, crap, I didn't know we were bringing stuff. So yeah. So you could tell he just
so awkward too. And he's like, I didn't even know I was coming or was supposed to be here. So
yeah. No, I think he said I didn't know I was going to meet you. Otherwise I would have
I was going to meet you. Yeah.
Like
that.
Yeah, thanks, Ocon. But I think that's when I texted you at one point. I said, I think I texted you that this weekend, or this week. I should be Charles' assistant, because he misses out on so much stuff. It's like nobody tells this guy anything. It's ever. Like, he missed his whole 200th race or whatever it was we celebrated for Russell and Alex Albon, I think it was. And it's like, he's like, oh, I didn't even know. Like, who is helping you? Like, who? And the funniest part is he does have a company that helps athletes with all kinds of stuff. Can I just have a job, please, Charles? I will help you and you won't miss a darn thing in the future. I will learn French. But the other thing that was funny was at the game. So they were, Charles and Esteban were talking to another Laker player, And the Laker was saying something to Ocon, like commenting on his height, because Ocon is fairly tall. And he says, yeah, I'm like the tallest driver. And then he pats Charles on the shoulder, like, yep, I'm the tallest driver. And again, Charles just standing there like, seriously, why am I here? Why am I here?
And he is the tallest driver at 6'2".
Yeah, he's tall. That's my kind of tall right there. Oh my goodness. Yeah, 6'2". Most of the other drivers are too short for me, but there's still some cute. Except Fernando. I would give Fernando a pass.
Fernando is the exact same height of my partner.
What is that? Like 5'7"?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would give Fernando a pass on that one. So anyways, yeah, so that was fun. And then if you are in need of a holiday gift, Valtteri Bottas came out with a calendar. So if you remember last year, there was a picture of him laying down in a stream in Aston. What am I saying? What is Aspen? I said Aston because I'm just thinking ASS.
It was an Aspen.
Aspen. So this year he came out with a whole calendar full of his booty and more Aspen, Colorado photos. So there you go. Get yourself a calendar.
Got an Aspen.
I didn't even notice that.
I blew the picture up. That is hysterical.
I didn't even notice that at all until you literally just said it. So yeah, there you go. Add that to your holiday wish list.
I might have to buy that.
I love it. Okay, so next week, oh my gosh, this is our longest episode by far. We're going to wrap this up really quick because I need to eat something and take a nap. So next week, last race of the season. This has been a really long season. I'm exhausted. I can't even imagine how the drivers and the teams feel because I am ready for the season to be done. We're in Abu Dhabi.
To Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. 58 laps, 2 DRS zones, 5.281 kilometers. There is a 1.2 kilometer straight between turns 5 and 6. And then on either end of that are some slow speed corners. So there you go. And who was it? Was it McLaren that hated the slow speed corners in Vegas? So in that little section, they may not like it too much. But it is a really, really good spot for overtaking. So that could be kind of fun. Turns 10, 11, and 12. It makes the drivers like brake hard. So that could be a very interesting little combo of turns. Love it. There's a lot of lateral load that happens on the car in that area. So there's that. It's the last race for Franz Tost. So I hope people are keeping a special eye on Yuki because he loves Franz. And yeah, his last race with AlphaTauri, but he will be staying on as a consultant for a few months at least. And when the race is over, the teams will actually have a day to do some testing. So they will be testing probably some setups for what they're looking at for next year. Because after this, they won't be able to really test their car outside of like a simulator or whatever until the official testing begins in wherever we go first. I can't even remember where the first race is.
Bahrain.
Is it Bahrain? I
Bahrain
feel like
is the first on the calendar because I was just looking at the calendar when I was looking at my list of where do we want to go next year.
Oh, I do kind of want to go to Bahrain, but that's really far. Maybe once I officially move, we could have that.
The first race next year is Bahrain.
Okay. Yeah. So this testing could be really, really important to the teams to gather as much data as they can. So that way, as they're working on the 2024 car over the winter break or the over till we get started again.
And the 2 opening races of 2024 on a Saturday to accommodate Ramadan.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll have 3 Saturday. I think it's at least 3. Is it 3 or 4? I think at least 3 Saturday races. But yes, those are on to accommodate Ramadan next year, which is nice that they're recognizing that. So that's it. Oh my gosh, an hour and 50 minutes, record-breaking podcast. But Las Vegas Grand Prix, you did me in this week, but it finished with like amazing race.
Viva Las Vegas. Anyway.
Okay.
That's all. All right. Have a good one. Bye, everybody. And a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind-the-scenes content, You can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/SheLovesTheGrid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.